Welcome, everyone. My name is Shane McGuire, and I'm one of the admissions officers here at Vanderbilt University. Welcome to today's virtual information session. Before I begin the session, I actually do want to read a quick statement on behalf of our office and the university. Welcome to our virtual session today. We hope that each of you is staying safe and healthy. Before we begin, in light of ongoing struggles our nation and world face, we want to share with you Vanderbilt's commitment to creating a safe, welcoming, and respectful environment and an inclusive campus community for all of our students, faculty, and staff. At Vanderbilt, we know our diversity makes us stronger, and we seek to build and support a community comprising students from all socioeconomic backgrounds and of all races, religions, gender identities, and sexual orientation. We believe that Black lives matter, and we support the fight for justice and equity for all Black Americans. We do not tolerate acts of hate, racism, or discrimination of any form, and we commit to building an environment based on civil discourse around even the most complex issues. As you will learn throughout today's presentation, context-based holistic evaluation is a hallmark of our admissions process, and this has never been more important than it is now. Again, thank you for taking time to join our session today. Just to kind of give you an idea of the plan of what we're going to talk about today, I'm going to spend about half the presentation giving you kind of a glimpse into life at Vanderbilt. We'll talk about the academic experience, the student life experience on our campus, and kind of give you an idea of what it's like to be a student on our campus. We'll then switch gears about halfway through the presentation, and I will give you an overview of the admissions process, scholarships, financial aid, and a little bit more information about that. So that's our plan. I'll kind of dive right in. I'll start with this first slide here. This is a really great shot of probably one of our most iconic buildings on campus, Kirkland Hall here. And you'll see a couple rankings on here as well. Honestly, as you're going through this process, I often tell students that rankings can be a great guide for you, but they're not going to determine the right fit for you. And really, that is sort of the goal for you in this process. As you're going through this, as you're completing this college search, we want you to find the right academic fit, social fit, financial fit, a place that truly does feel comfortable for you. That is really the goal for you in this process. So hopefully today's presentation will start to give you an idea as, is Vanderbilt potentially the right fit for me? And I do always sort of draw folks' attention to this, this number 2 best quality of life. And we can kind of use that as a framework for today's presentation. Typically, we're anywhere between 1 and 3 in the United States and the country for being either having best quality of life or a little bit cheesier, happiest students in the country. And hopefully you might get an idea of why that's the case as we move throughout the presentation. Some numbers for you as it comes to Vanderbilt. I'm actually going to start at the bottom of this slide because I know you're not going to listen to anything I say unless I address the squirrel to student ratio. Typically, when you hear numbers from schools, you expect a student to faculty ratio. We find that it's more fun and different to report that squirrel to student ratio. This is not a made up number. This is actually a research fact about our campus, and it's also a fun way of us telling you that we very much have this true college campus feel. Our campus very much feels like a park. We're actually a national arboretum, which I think may surprise people because we're also a mile and a half or 3 kilometers from the center of downtown Nashville. So we are considered an urban campus, being right in the heart of the city. But when you stand on our campus, you could very easily forget that you're in a city. It has very, very quiet. It has that traditional college campus feel. We are a medium-sized institution, a big research university, sitting at a little over 7,000 undergraduate students, a little over 13,000 when you throw in the graduate and professional students. On our campus, you will find 10 different colleges and schools, 4 of which are undergraduate. I'm going to talk about those a little bit more in depth here in just a minute. Between those 4 undergraduate schools, you have 70 different majors to choose from. So a lot of different options for you as a student. There are also 470 plus student organizations on our campus. We did not get tired of counting. That just shows you the ease with which students can certainly add different organizations on our campus, and we continue to see that number go up all the time. But that represents a very important feature of our student body, and that is balance. You're going to be working hard in the classroom. You're going to be challenged in new ways. You're going to be pushed outside your comfort zone as a student, but we're not going to lock you up in a library for 4 years. We want our students engaging in the community, being very involved in student life, and our students really do strike that nice balance. And I really do think that is a huge contributor to that that great quality of life on our campus. 44% of our students identify as a student of color on our campus, and that starts to introduce another important feature of our student body, and that is diversity. We very much pride ourselves on having an incredibly diverse and inclusive campus community. As you can see here from the map, we have students coming from all across the United States. I think a lot of times people may think that we are a more southern regional institution, but again, as you see here, we have students coming from a little bit of everywhere. I mean, some of our biggest states that are represented outside of the state of Tennessee, Illinois, New York, Texas, California, Florida. So really students coming from all across the US. And you can see that we do, at least currently, have 49 of the 50 states represented. In many years, we have all 50. I think our North Dakota student graduated recently, but we do have students typically coming from all 50 states. Hopefully that's not a deal breaker right now for you, the fact that we have 49 out of 50, but students are coming from all across the world as well. Typically, we're about 8 to 9% international. Our incoming class for the past couple years has actually grown quite a bit. We're between 11 and 12% international. So students are coming from all across the world. We have a little over 60 countries represented in our undergraduate population, a little over 90 countries represented if you include graduate and professional students. So students really are coming from all across the world. About 65% of our students receive some form of financial assistance. We have a little over 60 different religious organizations. Politically speaking, we have a really nice split on campus between liberal, moderate, and conservative. And these are just sort of the numbers. But as we are shaping our class and our community, we're building that sort of campus and the students that we want to be on our campus. We are thinking about students from different backgrounds, different walks of life, different perspectives, because we want you to be sitting in the classroom across the table from someone who may think differently than you, who may challenge your perspectives. And our faculty love that. They love sort of engaging in that discourse and leading that civil discourse among our students. We want students living in the residence halls with students from all different walks of life, different backgrounds. As much as you're going to learn from faculty, you're going to learn even more from the peers and the friends that you your time at Vanderbilt. So we want you to be part of an incredibly diverse campus community, and we very much pride ourselves on that diversity and inclusive campus community. As I mentioned on that first slide, there are 4 undergraduate schools at Vanderbilt. When you apply, you will actually apply to one of these 4 schools because you need to have a home somewhere within the university. The nice thing is you get to take classes in all 4 schools if you want to. You have a lot of flexibility in terms of what you do, but you need to pick one of these as a home base. So if you're getting to the time of application and you are very undecided about your life, you have a ton of different interests, first of all, that is totally fine. You do not have to have your whole life figured out by the time you graduate high school. And in fact, many students that apply and start that think they have their life figured out are probably going to end up changing their mind after that first semester or after that first year. And that is totally fine. If you're at that point, I would certainly probably direct you to the College of Arts and Science. It operates just like any other liberal arts college in the country where you could come in undecided, really have those first 2 years to explore, to change your mind, to kind of see what's out there, declare the major by the end of that second year and still graduate on time in 4 years. You also have a lot of flexibility to double major. The curriculum is incredibly flexible. About a third of your classes are what we call the axle requirements, which are sort of these larger areas that you're fulfilling courses within. You still have a lot of flexibility even in sort of that general part of the curriculum. A third fall within your major, and then a third are electives to where you can literally take any classes that you want, or you can concentrate those to do a minor, 2 minors, a second major, and it could be in something completely unrelated. I went to a small liberal arts college. It wasn't Vanderbilt for undergrad, but I did a biology and religion double major. Those 2 barely get along, much less have any overlapping coursework. But that is the beauty of a liberal arts education, is that you're able to bring together different majors, different perspectives, different ideas. It's very interdisciplinary in nature, and you actually oftentimes learn to make connections across fields as you work through programs in the College of Arts and Science. For the School of Engineering, the nice thing when you apply over there is you need to know you want to be an engineer or a computer scientist, but you don't necessarily have to know which one. You're actually going to have that first year to explore 3 of the 8 different majors that we offer over there. That for one of the first classes you take, you will pick 3 of those 8. You'll spend about 4 to 5 weeks doing hands-on work and projects in that area to really sort of introduce you to that field. And then a lot of the engineering coursework for any field is going to be fairly similar that first year as you're getting that base calculus and physics and chemistry. And then typically by the end of that first year is when you will declare that major. We are a 4-year engineering school. As you're looking across the country, you're going to see a variety of length in terms of engineering programs. Some may be closer to 5 years, others will be 4 years, some are 4.5. A lot of that has to do with how they structure either that sort of co-op or internship. So often schools that are doing the full co-op, which might be 2 semesters in the summer, are probably going to be a little bit closer to 5 years. Vanderbilt instead does an internship between that junior and senior year to get you that professional hands-on experience. And ultimately that program ends up being 4 years for us. So still great placement when our students graduate, but just a little bit different way of structuring that curriculum. As a capstone in that school, every single student will take part in our senior design project. It's a year-long research project that you will do either with faculty for an outside agency, but it's sort of this final capstone that you have. And we've had some really cool things that have come out of that. If you have ever played around with Google Earth, you can thank Vanderbilt students for laying the foundation for that. We had some students a few years ago who 3D printed a malaria testing device. We've had some students do some really cool rocket engine research that's been used by NASA. As a side note, our students, a group I think our mechanical engineers, often compete in the NASA rocket competition and have won that many, many years, even though the fact that we don't have an aerospace engineering program. So some really cool things that our students are doing over in that School of Engineering. For the Peabody College of Education and Human Development, as the name suggests, it has 2 halves to it. So it has this education half with elementary education, secondary, one of the top special education programs in the country. And it does a fantastic job of tying theory, research, and practice together. You're getting the theories of learning in the classroom while being an amazing top-tier research university, and also being in a city that allows you to get out and teach in a variety of different school settings. And as you're working through that program, they make sure that you get lots of classroom experience so that really you're ready for any type of classroom when you graduate. On the other side of the school, you have some really interesting, very specific psychology programs, child studies, child development, cognitive studies, and then a really kind of cool program called Human and Organizational Development, or HOD, as our students refer to it as. It's kind of an organizational leadership, psychology type major. You're basically learning how organizations work and function, how to manage people, how to sort of get the most efficiency out of an organization. And this is actually our second most popular major. This major and economics and arts and science often battle it out every year to be the most popular major in the university. And you may be surprised by that because you're like, well, I've never heard of this major. But because you're learning about organizational dynamics, that can serve you in so many different fields. Most jobs when you graduate, you're working in some sort of organizational setting. So we see students take this into business, law, education, nonprofits, hospital administration, hospitality management, so many different ways in which you can use and apply that major. And then last but not least, you have the Blair School of Music. It's by far the smallest of our 4 undergraduate schools. So arts and science is about 3,700, 3,800 students over there. Engineering is around 1,500. Peabody is about 11 to 1,200. And the School of Music's 200 students over there. It is a classically based school of music, although they have recently added concentrations in jazz as well. If you apply directly to that school, you will have a couple steps in an audition process that you will be doing alongside sending your admissions application to us. And however, if you're a music person, you love music, but you're not necessarily looking to major in music, you have the opportunities to potentially add music as a second major. Maybe if there are openings in our choir, band, and orchestra, you can audition for those openings. Maybe you want to go take the history of rock and roll, the history of country music as an elective, because that sounds awesome. You can certainly do that. So that kind of goes back to the general theme here, is that even though you are picking one of these 4 schools as a home base, you have flexibility to really do things in all 4 schools, to double major across schools, major minor combinations, so much flexibility as a student. As you're working through your academic program, we want you to have some sort of immersive experience in your field beyond the classroom. That could be research, that could be some sort of civic engagement, internship type opportunity, that could be an international study abroad experience, or that could be some sort of creative endeavor or experience. Maybe as an artist, it's a final showcase or portfolio. Maybe as a theater major, you are directing a play that senior year, or as a musician, it's your final recital that you are doing. This is actually a graduation requirement, something that every student has to take part in during their time at Vanderbilt. But the nice thing is, we're not telling you what this experience has to look like. You are the driver of this experience. You're going to be working with advisors on campus to kind of think about, okay, based on a field that I'm majoring in, that I love, what is an experience that would be really beneficial to me outside the classroom? And again, you are sort of the driver of this immersive experience. Kind of moving a little bit beyond that academic experience, and this is really sort of a great bridge between academic and student life, is talking about this on-campus residential experience. We want students to be on campus all 4 years. It's actually required to live on campus all 4 years. And I would say roughly 93, 94% of our students are on campus all 4 years. So there's a handful of students who may get special permission to move off, but we really see the value of that on-campus community. And that starts with our first year experience. We have 10 residence halls as part of the Commons experience. They're kind of all on this area of campus together. And there's a faculty member that lives in each of these residence halls. And it's really cool that you get to interact with faculty sort of beyond that traditional setting. They're living there in these residence halls with their families, with their pets. They're helping build that community. They work with student elected boards in each house to sort of put on over 200 events throughout that first year, just geared at the first year students. So really building an amazing community. Every house has a crest and a color, and they're competing for the Commons Cup. So basically, you've got sort of like a less medieval version of Harry Potter going on over there in that first year experience. After the first year experience, students kind of spread out across campus. You'll find a variety of living options, singles, doubles, 3 to 6 person suite style options. There's some apartment style living on campus, lots of options. And we are currently building a number of residential colleges for upper class students that also have faculty living alongside students. So we have several of those that are open now, a couple more that are coming online in the next couple years. I think the idea behind these residential colleges, when they're all completed, is that you could move into one of those as a sophomore and potentially stay in that same community until you graduate. So a very kind of cool on-campus community experience that you have as a student. As I mentioned on that first side, balance is a big part and sort of a hallmark of life at Vanderbilt. Tons of different student organizations to get involved in. A big thing that a lot of students get involved in, community service is big on campus. Alternative Spring Break is actually our largest campus organization. There's a lot of amazing school spirit on campus, and a big part of that is that students get free tickets to all sporting events. So going out, supporting the athletes is a ton of fun. We just came off sort of a great run at the College World Series for the baseball team. Unfortunately, things didn't work out, but they have a couple national titles in their history, which is great. And just for trivia's sake, we have 5 national titles total, 2 in men's baseball, 1 in women's tennis, and 2 in women's bowling. So there's your trivia for the day there. But a lot of school spirit. Game days again on campus are a whole lot of fun. We also bring a number of artists and performers and speakers to campus throughout the year. We do a couple big concert series on campus every year. You can see some of the past performers that have been just in recent years. So lots going on outside the classroom, a ton of different things for students to get involved in. Moving a little bit beyond our campus, you also have this amazing city to take advantage of. And our students absolutely get out into Nashville. They love the city of Nashville. It is often referred to or nicknamed either Music City, USA, or the country music capital of the world. The live music scene in Nashville is amazing. You can find concerts going on pretty much every single night of the week. We do about 20,000 live music shows in the city of Nashville every single year, about a third of which are country. So if you're a country music lover, you've got plenty of it here. If you're more like me and you're not the biggest fan of country music, any artist, any band that you follow that's doing a tour across the United States will almost certainly stop in Nashville at some point. You have amazing venues downtown. We have a couple sports venues that are used for concerts. We're home to the Ryman Auditorium, which is a really cool kind of smaller venue that performers love to be in. We have some outdoor venues. Our campus serves as a venue for concerts. Lots of amazing live music throughout the city of Nashville. You also have a pretty great sports scene in Nashville. We are home to the Tennessee Titans, which is now becoming a more regular team in the playoffs. You have the Nashville Predators hockey team, which always makes a pretty good run at the Stanley Cup. We have a minor league baseball team, a newly acquired Major League Soccer team. So definitely a sports scene you can take advantage of in Nashville. It's also a great city for professional development, for our students to be able to get out, to get great hands-on and shadowing experience. And I think is a big contributor to why about 70% of our students will complete an internship by the time they graduate. It's a city known for healthcare. We have 6 hospitals in Nashville. There's also a lot going on in healthcare management in the city of Nashville. We're a state capital. Some great things you can do in terms of local and state politics in Nashville. Lots of nonprofits, business, entrepreneurship continue to take off in Nashville. We're home to 8 Fortune 500 companies. A lot of amazing things that students are able to get out and do and get that professional experience. And then the last thing to really talk about when it comes to Nashville is the food scene. It's an amazing food scene. One of my favorite things to do in Nashville is to get out, check out different neighborhoods, try all the local eateries and coffee shops in the city. There are about 80 coffee shops and restaurants just within walking distance of campus. Your meal plan works at about 20 or 25 of those. So you have great dining that you can get out into the city and take advantage of as a student. You're also going to a university that is consistently top in the country, top 10 or so in the country for best campus food. So we're going to make sure that you eat well. But students definitely get out. They enjoy the food scene. Nashville in particular is known for hot chicken. That's sort of a unique thing to Nashville. We take Southern fried chicken and throw hot spices on it. So definitely make sure if you ever come to Nashville that you get out and try that while you're here. So a really fun city that students take advantage of. It's one of the fastest growing cities in America. It's also recently been named the friendliest city in America. So it's great to have this amazing city right there, your doorstep, that you can take advantage of as a student. All right, at this point, I'm going to transition just a little bit and talk about sort of the admissions process, what we look at, how we evaluate an application, and then a little bit about scholarships and financial aid as well. So I'm going to start with this slide here. Take a second, read through this, but there's a couple things that I really want to highlight on this slide. And the first is the personal attention. Every single one of you has an admissions counselor who is working alongside you in this process. We divide up the entire country, the entire world, so that you have someone who is a resource for you as you go through this process. We also want to make sure that your application is getting the attention that it deserves. You're putting lots of time and energy into this application. We want to make sure that we're putting time and energy into reviewing that application. So we guarantee that every application gets at least 2 reviews in our process. And many may get more as they go through a scholarship process or committee process. We're definitely giving your application the attention that it deserves. The second thing I always like to highlight is that we are looking for reasons to admit. Now, you may have looked up our acceptance rate. You may have seen that on our website, and you're like, I don't know if I actually buy that or not. It seems like you enjoy saying no to students. That is not at all how we approach your application. We are always looking for every single reason why you should be part of our campus, why you should be part of our community. We approach your application through this lens of positive advocacy. So the best way to help us advocate for you in this process is to advocate for yourself. And I want to sort of talk through the different ways of the application in which you could do that. So we practice holistic admissions. I know as you continue to go through this process, you're going to hear holistic admissions used a lot. It's one of those probably overused terms in admissions, but everyone that practices holistic admissions may put different emphasis on different things. So I do just want to break these down for you just a little bit. And I'll start with this academic achievement. You'll notice it says academic achievement and not GPA, because there is more to you than just that number. We want to essentially contextualize that number. We want to unpack that number. We want to look at what are the courses that you're taking? What are the progression of those courses throughout your high school career? What are trends that we might see in your GPA or in your grades? What is the rigor of your curriculum? And ultimately, what is the context of your high school and how do you fit into that context? We know every high school is different in terms of GPA scales. There are 4.0s and 5.0s and 11.0s and 100.0 scales and everything in between. Honestly, I think high schools may make up GPA scales just to mess with admissions, and that is totally fine. We want to understand you in that context. We also know curriculum offerings may look different. You may have APs or honors or IB, dual enrollment, national curriculum. You may have none of those designations at your high school, and that is totally fine. We want to understand the context of what's going on at your school. And then ultimately, we are looking to see that you are taking advantage of opportunities. You are finding ways to challenge yourself, to push yourself outside your comfort zone. That is really what we're looking at. You're just making the most of the opportunities available to you. The second thing here, standardized test scores. And you'll notice it says if submitted. As many schools did during the pandemic, we made the move to being test optional. Probably the one question that I have answered the most over the past year is, but are you truly optional? Yes, it really is optional. We would not put it out there on our website that we are optional if it was actually secretly recommended or required. We would put recommended or required. It truly is optional. And we have worked very, very hard to figure out the best way to review applications to make sure that if a student submits a test score or they don't submit a test score, there is no advantage or disadvantage one way or the other. And we worked very, very hard to make sure that happens. I think the way that our class has shaped out this year, that happened. We had students that submitted test scores, didn't submit test scores, that ended up getting admitted. There's so many great students out there in both categories. There really is no advantage or disadvantage to that. If you choose to submit a test score, we're going to look at it. And if you choose to submit an SAT or ACT, we will always take the highest that you send us. We super score both of those tests, but we're always going to take that highest super score and focus on that. You may also be wondering about secondary tests, maybe SAT2s, AP, IB tests. Those have always been optional for us. They continue to be optional for us. Again, not something you have to take just for Vanderbilt, not something you have to submit, even if you have those. If you feel like they add something to your application or you did really well on one of those and you want to report that, go for it. At the same time, if you took one, you didn't have a great test day, you don't want to report those, totally fine, truly optional. So any tests when it comes to Vanderbilt are optional. We are test optional. We are going to continue being test optional for at least this next coming class, fall 2022, and it may end up changing more down the road, but as of right now, we will be test optional for fall 2022 applicants. So these kind of first two things are very sort of academic focused and are really sort of the foundation of that application. But we have a lot of students that are academically talented that could come here, could knock it out of the park in the classroom. So we're going to be unpacking the other parts of your application. I'm going to go in a slightly different order here because one of the first things I look at is what are you doing outside the classroom? What are you passionate about? What are you interested in? Where are you spending your time and energy? So what are your extracurricular activities, leadership, engagement, and anything that you're doing outside the classroom can absolutely count here. And we're always looking for depth of involvement in the things that you're doing. So this could be school clubs or organizations, could be sports or music, could be things in your community. Maybe it's community service initiatives that you are a part of. Maybe it's a job or internship. Maybe it's at-home responsibilities. Basically anything that is not academic, not in the classroom, or not while you're sleeping can count as an extracurricular activity. And when you sit down to fill out that application, this is not a time to hold back. This is a time to brag on yourself, talk about your achievements, your accomplishments, your awards. We want to know those things. So certainly do not hold back when you fill out that application. Letters of recommendation, we ask for 3, 1 coming from a school counselor and 2 coming from teachers in your core academic subjects. The school counselor is again kind of giving us more of this contextual view, sort of this big picture view of you. And you know, the teachers are going to give us a little bit more of a up close view of you and kind of what it's like for you in the classroom, the type of student that you are. They're going to be able to tell us if you're maybe the discussion leader, or maybe you're a little bit quieter in group discussions, but once you're on a team or in a small group work, you're a leader there. You're putting in all the work there. Maybe you're a fantastic writer and you write these amazing essays. Maybe you're more of a hands-on learner. You're a great student in the lab. They're going to be able to kind of give us a sense of the type of student you are and also your character, your personality. So as you're thinking about the teachers who you get to pick in this process, think about the ones that really do know you, that can speak to that character, can speak to that personality, because that's really what we're trying to learn from these letters of recommendation. 3, it's all that's required. We get a lot of questions about, you know, should I submit more letters? You certainly do not need to do that. I promise the 3 is all that we need. But if you get to the end of that process of filling out the application and you're like, I feel like there's this extra voice that would add something to my application, you are more than welcome to do that. Please do not get carried away with the number of recommendations you send. I promise more is not better. Think about the quality of those. And again, I promise the 3 is all that we really need. And then last but not least, you have the personal essay. I saved this for the end because I know this is your favorite part of the application to do, right? Maybe not. It really is our favorite part of the application to read. It's a chance to hear from you directly, to learn about your personality, your story, a glimpse into who you are. And I say glimpse because it's only 650 words. You cannot tell us your whole life story in that amount of time. We certainly do not expect you to do that. We're just hoping to learn a little bit about who you are as a person. So keep it focused, have fun with it, be authentic to who you are. I think there's a lot of pressure in this process for you to try to be something you're not. Be who you are. Be authentic as you write this essay and keep it focused. Have fun with it. Hopefully it'll be more fun than you think as you go through this process. A little bit about our profile when it comes to Vanderbilt, and these are last year's numbers. This is for fall 2020. I'll update you a little bit with numbers for this year. About 36,646 applications last year for an admit rate of 11.6%, a little bit bigger incoming class there. This past year, this year's class, a little over 47,000 applications. And we expect that that admit rate will likely be maybe somewhere between 7 and 8% there for an incoming class of closer to 1,600 students. That is typically the size of our incoming class. Last year's class was a little bit bigger given sort of the pandemic, given the fact that we had some virtual learners as well last year. And then you saw those middle 50%. Again, that was back when we required the test score. This is our sort of first year with it being optional. But I imagine that as those numbers kind of fill out for this cycle will be roughly sort of the same there. And that's the middle 50%. That is the middle chunk of our student population. So there's going to be scores higher than that, scores below that, but those are good ranges to think about. If you're thinking about submitting a test score or taking a test, those are good ranges to think about. When it comes to, how do I apply to Vanderbilt? What are the dates and deadlines when it comes to that? So you have a couple early decision plans, as you see here. As you guys may know, early decision is binding. It's something you do at one school. If admitted, you're expected to attend. So it has that binding component to it. Really, the difference between these plans is the date. So you see that November 1st for early decision 1, you find out by mid-December. Early decision 2 is January 1st, you find out by mid-February. If you choose to apply early decision, we are going to give you that upfront yes or no answer in the process. Some schools may defer you to regular decision. They may waitlist out of that process. We are going to give you a definitive yes or no answer. If you're not ready to make that commitment, you're not ready to sort of take that plunge for early decision, you also have the regular decision deadline, January 1st. You find out typically late March, and you have until May 1st to make that decision. If you apply regular decision, the answer could be yes, no, or waitlist there. And I will tell you that we do actively use that waitlist. Roughly, 9 to 10% of our incoming class comes in off the waitlist. So if you end up with that decision, it's the end of the road for you in the process. We do fill a little over half our class in early decision. The acceptance rate's often closer to 20%. The other half is coming through regular decision. That acceptance rate is often maybe between 6 or 7%. That doesn't mean you necessarily have to do early decision, but I want to be as transparent with you as possible about sort of the breakdown of those processes. And then you also notice that merit scholarship deadline. As you go through the process, some schools are automatically, when you submit that admissions application, they're going to consider you for scholarships from that application. There's going to be other schools where you have to apply separately. Vanderbilt is one of those where you do have to apply separately. The deadline for our scholarships is December 1st. So make sure you're aware of those dates. I certainly do not want you to miss out on applying for free money. And then really the last thing to talk about is our huge commitment to affordability. We know this is a big issue in higher education. So we make 3 big commitments to every single student. The first is that we are need blind. You notice when I talked about the admissions process, I didn't mention anything about money, assets, income, anything like that. That's what need blind means. The second is that we meet 100% of your demonstrated needs. So that's going to be calculated by 2 forms that you send our financial aid office, the FAFSA, the CSS profile. They're going to calculate your estimated family contribution, or EFC, which is essentially what they say that you and your family can contribute to your education every single year. They're going to take that number. They're going to take the total cost of attendance, which is tuition, fees, room, board, estimated costs for books, even thinking about transportation to and from campus. Truly that total cost, if there is a difference there, they're going to meet that 100%. And there are a lot of schools that meet 100% of your demonstrated need. It's this last one that makes us a little bit more unique. Only a dozen schools or so in the country meet 100% of your need with no loans. Any of the financial aid that you receive from Vanderbilt will come in the form of grants or grant scholarships there, or work study. It's about 97% grant aid, 3% work study, but it's all money that you never have to pay back when you graduate. So it's very, very easy when you see that sticker price to get sticker shock and to want to walk away. Honestly, wouldn't blame you for that. I encourage you to take the 15 or 20 minutes to fill out our net price calculator and just see how things work out. You may be very surprised to see that, wow, your sticker price is up here, but after potential financial aid, it's in a range that could work for our family. Maybe you go through the process with Vanderbilt. So definitely make sure to do that research. And that's not just for Vanderbilt, for any school that you're doing, make sure to play around with those net price calculators. All right, that brings us to the end of our presentation. Typically, if you came to campus right now, we would hopefully be able to get you out on a tour. You might be able to sort of do a self-guided tour around campus, something to actually be able to see it in person. But since you're not able to sort of be on campus right now, this is a great opportunity for you to do our virtual tour. I encourage you to check that out as a chance to sort of learn a little bit more about Vanderbilt. But thank you so much for tuning in today, for taking time out of your day to watch this session, and enjoy the rest of your day.